Okay, just tell me your name and what do you do?
My name is Eric Montgomery Shepperd, and I'm the judge of County Court of Law number 2.
And what exactly does that entail?
We are a civil court. We handle only civil cases up to $250,000, and then whatever cases that the district court will task to us, which they do fairly frequently.
And where were you born and raised?
I was born in Tacoma Park, Maryland, raised primarily in Texas. Tyler, Nacogdoches, Longview was my father's first pastorate, and we went from there to Dallas, and then moved from Michigan. So pretty much between those 3 states.
Okay. And what was life like growing up for you?
When you're a preacher's kid, it's interesting. You eat whatever's put before you. You do whatever the sisters or mothers of the church tell you to do, but you try and keep yourself straight and try not to live up to the song that's been sung about you all your life.
And did you always know you were going to go to college?
I did. That was pretty much a given from Jump Street. Parents were all very good about that. My father sang in a quartet called the Cathedral Quartet, and he got to do that at Oakwood College, HBCU, and so we were going no matter what. So that's what wound up happening. We all went and finished at least 1 degree, and my brother has a master's, except for my baby brother, but that's a different story. He just decided he could go something else.
And your mother and father, what did they do?
My father was a preacher and then became a church administrator. Seventh-day Adventist Church just kind of rose through the ranks and eventually became vice president out in California. My mother was an administrative assistant. She says secretary because she figured out that, you can't do anything without her. So that was pretty much what her motto was.
When did you come to Austin?
I came to Austin in 1982. Came for law school after I graduated from Andrews University and never left.
And what do you think has kept you here?
It's a good town, good people. I went to Alpha Seventh-day Adventist Church, and there was a brother there by the name of Howard Lott. Howard Lott had been around for a very long time. He was there helping put bricks on Congress Avenue. Mm-hmm. So been there for a while, and I remember one day, Brother Lott, I saw him at the church. We were just getting ready to break up, and Brother Lott was. I just want to see Holly. We're filming. I just wanted to see if Brother Lott was what he was doing. I asked him why he was there, and he said that. He was waiting for this group of ladies that were standing over there. They were just outside talking. And I was like, you gonna stay here? And he said, I said, look, don't worry about it. I got it. He raised me right. I mean, he got great things. He said, like, I couldn't be on time, so what was the thing he would say? I couldn't be early. I couldn't be on time, so I was early. That was what he always used to say. So that was always kind of one of his deals. And so that put me at Alpha for a long time and learned a lot from him and from all the people at Alpha and from a lot of people in Austin.
Okay. How did you decide to become a lawyer?
I was in high school. Rick Kaczynski was the counselor, and gave me a thing to do. It was some kind of test that we took, mm-hmm. and preacher and lawyer were in the same category for some reason. I was thinking about being a preacher because my daddy was a preacher, and my mother was like, no. And I said, okay, I can be a lawyer because I can help people and I can do this church stuff. So that's what I decided to do.
So being a lawyer and a preacher, isn't that kind of opposite?
Actually, no. Preachers talk about the law. It's just a lot of different law, and pretty much 10 laws to be exact. And that's what lawyers do. We learn how to do that. In fact, there's a lot of, when you're talking about being a trial lawyer, and I remember the first kind of case, sort of was a mock trial that we did. All I had to do was sort of mimic Daddy preaching. It worked out really well. and so I've pretty much done that ever since. If you can learn how to preach, you can learn how to be a good trial lawyer.
And how did you become a judge? Can you talk to us about that?
That was very interesting, and you'll hear Alpha come up a lot. I got told by a very good friend of mine who is now an elected official that I would never win. I'd always wanted to call balls and strikes. At some point, I knew that I wanted to do that, wanted to be a judge, because that was the highest thing. In fact, part of the reason I decided to become a lawyer was because in class I went on a field trip to Chicago. It was a federal court. I walked in the court, was expecting to see a judge, and this judge was black, and that was different to me. I hadn't really seen that, wasn't expecting that. It was a federal court judge who was African American, and I was like, okay, this can be done at a fairly high level. You just got to work at it. And so, when I got here, I knew I wanted to do that. I was going to run a couple times. I was going to run, and then finally in 2006, I decided that was a good time to run. It was really interesting because I had two really fantastic people helping me, David Butts and Pat Crow. And anybody who knows politics knows that's who you wanted to have. And specifically when I would go visit black churches, Pat was like, y'all still at church? I'm Pat, I'm here till they're done, don't worry about it. But most of that got done. A lot of the foot walking and block walking that was happening, part of the reason I was told I couldn't win was because I wouldn't be able to do things on Saturday. And I wasn't participating in block walking that on Saturday. But I had a really great church and a really good set of folk, and we put out more people in one day than most people put out in 2 days. And so Alpha's a huge reason why I'm here.
Describe a moment that changed the way you see life.
My father died. And just reminded me of a song that John Mayer wrote called Stop This Train. And you see life differently. You just do. And it changes what you do and how you do it. My good friend Judge Wong invited me to do the eulogy for his mother's funeral. I told him I understood. There was no way I wasn't going to do it. In fact, I was supposed to preach that morning and called the pastor about 2 days before and said, I got to go do this. And he said, okay, we'll try and find somebody. But it just changes the way you look at the world.
What do you feel is your place or your purpose?
My place is here. My purpose is to make sure I'm not the last one on this bench. Oddly enough, we are still experiencing first. I am the first African American on the civil court bench on the county level. I didn't think that was true or possible because you have Laura Livingston and Judge Flowers and Judge Kennedy, but there's only been one on the county court of law bench, and that's me. Civil county court of law bench.
Who do you admire?
Judge Laura Livingston. She is amazing. We have been friends for a very long time. We joke a lot because her husband's name is Eric, so I'm the work husband, so to speak. But Laura just will remind you that you can do anything if you just keep trying and keep working at it. And that's part of the reason I did this and wanted to help sure this took place, because we need this here in Austin. There's not a lot of black folks, but there's enough for us to make a difference, and that's what we need to do.
Right. Describe your black experience here in Austin.
That's been interesting. When you look like this, which is about as high yellow as you can get, except for my mama maybe, it's always a little different. In fact, one of my good friends at church they recently had a child, and he used to call me like bright and everything, but white, that's the Red Fox line. But what was funny about that was he had a child, and it was a cute little boy, but he was about my complexion, was about way lighter than his daddy. And I was like, no, you need to give me the child because you obviously don't know anything about handling life. And so I say all of that partly because it's just, everybody here has been, they make jokes, but it's a tight-knit community. Sunday brunch and things, we've all kind of grown up and have seen each other through different things in different levels. We've all helped each other. it's been probably one of the best experiences I think you could ever have for a Black community, because as small as it is, it's been tight, and everybody knows everybody and tries to make sure that everybody gets some help and keep you from doing crazy stuff. I had a friend of mine in my chambers today, along with a couple other friends of mine, and we were going, are you thinking about running? Because we need to have a conversation if you're going to do that. And recent events being what they are, I was like, no, I'm like, okay, so here's the things you got to know. Here's the thing. So it's been an amazing Black experience. I don't think I could have asked, in a larger town, I'm not sure I would have had the same experience. Mm-hmm. But here in Austin, it's been great. It's been wonderful, actually.
What is your hope for Austin?
That we will continue to grow, that we will get a larger Black community, that we will participate at all levels of making Austin better. We haven't had a Black mayor in Austin. There's some firsts still to be had in this town, and we haven't had a Black senator. There's lots of levels on which we can participate, but whether we win an election or win a race, if we can all just come together and try and help everybody out, no man is an island is absolutely true. The other thing is, I hope that we will just learn to communicate with each other. My favorite paraphrase of my favorite quote is from George Bernard Shaw. It's the difficulty with communication is the illusion that it is taking place. Our job is to remove the illusion and communicate.
Have you ever experienced racism?
Yes.
Can you tell me a moment or a time that you know exactly that it was racism?
Oh, one thing, I will still be convinced that I don't own a house on the east side because nobody was selling to people who look like me on the east side. Oddly enough, I was trying to buy a house on the east side, wound up down south, could not get a house. So yes, I think that happened. But I talked to my realtor, she said, no, that didn't happen. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. But like anything else, you get stopped sometimes and you wonder about that. That's happened to me. You walk into a store and the person at the front door peels off and follows you throughout the entire store. That's happened to me. When I was working for the Attorney General's office, there was one of my best friends is Tony Nelson, and he can tell you there were times we got sent out to prison units to represent the officers, and they were like, we can't have these people here. And my office, we had a great bunch of people who worked in the office, and their deal was, that's your lawyer, you can have a lawyer or not. That's happened to Tony, that's happened to me, that's happened to all of us at some point or another.
How do you want people to remember you?
That I did the best I could to help, that I tried to solve the problem, and however I could do that, get that done, that I tried to help everybody I could help. And if that's the epitaph, I'm good.
What would you tell young people about going into the legal profession?
Work hard, be prepared to do the best you can, always be prepared. Whether you use it or not isn't the issue. Having it there to do is, and you can't reach for it if it's not there. And mentors come in all colors, shapes, and sizes. And you need to remember that just because they don't look like you doesn't mean they can't help you get to where you're going. God will put people in your path, and they will teach you lessons you never thought you would learn. Just listen.
So last question. What do you enjoy doing in your leisure time?
Church. And taking care of my mom. Those are the things. That's my life is pretty much this courthouse and my mom since my father passed away, and church. And for the most of the rest of it, I live vicariously through my good friend Judge Wong.
How does it feel to be nominated as a top 10?
If you had told me when I got my LSATs back that I was going to happen, I wasn't sure. I don't think I would have thought of that, but God is good. And it is phenomenal to have been nominated in that category. I am thrilled. There's a lot of good people on that list.
Sir, that's all I have. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, I'm good. Thank you. No, I'm honored to be part of the top 10. I'm glad we are doing this. I think it will help all of us come together and do what we need to do to make Austin a better place to live. And maybe we can stop losing African American people to Dallas and Houston and convince them that being here is the really place that they want to be. That's what I'd like to do. I hope this can play a small part in getting that done.
Thank you. That's it.